Today I'm going to show you just how quickly Jason Kenney's brand new Deputy Minister of the Policy Office, Mark Cameron, and Cameron's support for Justin Trudeau's carbon tax was used to attack Kenney's federal counterparts as they fight to keep our gas prices low. We've been talking about this for about a week here on The Rebel. Alberta's brand new Conservative Premier Jason Kenney was explicitly elected on an anti-carbon tax platform, but he has appointed a pro-carbon tax lobbyist named Mark Cameron to be his deputy minister in the policy office. I think this was an absolutely terrible hire and a betrayal of Jason Kenney's campaign promises to Albertans. I think there are plenty of other solid policy wonks available here in Alberta with strong conservative credentials that haven't spent, about the last half-decade or so lobbying for Kathleen Wynne's cap and trade, for increases in Rachel Notley's carbon tax, and on behalf of Justin Trudeau and Catherine McKenna's nationwide quote-unquote price on pollution. Now you can see my first two stories on Mark Cameron's background, including his very friendly relationship with those who fund Tides Canada's war on Canadian oil and gas, and sign my petition calling on Jason Kenney to fire Mark Cameron and find somebody better suited for the job at firecameron.com. Now today I want to show you just how quickly the federal Liberals have weaponized Jason Kenney's hiring and then normalization of Mark Cameron's ideas for carbon taxes. It only took a week for Mark Cameron to be used against us Conservatives. This first clip comes from Monday in the House of Commons. You see, Conservatives had just introduced a motion that, if adopted, and you know it won't be, calls on the government to stop raising the price of gas by clearing the way for pipelines and also eliminating the carbon tax on fuel. It's a really good motion because it addresses the two things the government is in control of right now: the supply of oil through a pipeline they now own, and of course, the taxes the government keeps adding to the cost of fuel. Minister of Environment and Climate Change Catherine McKenna's parliamentary secretary, Sean Fraser, rose in, of course, opposition to the motion. And it was Fraser handling the debate that day because Catherine McKenna was off somewhere at a conference halfway around the world telling us to use fewer fossil fuels. I can't tell if Fraser is slightly smarter than his boss, or maybe it's just the complete and total absence of McKenna's Valley Girl lilt when Fraser talks that makes me think he's smarter when he might not be. Anyway, the very first chance the Liberals had to use Cameron against Conservatives, they did just that. Just watch.
Now, we started out by trying to negotiate with the different provinces and territories to find a plan that would actually work for them. But we said, where the provincial government or territorial government won't play a leadership role and enforce a minimum standard of price stringency, that we would have a federal backstop that would apply. Now, this path is one that has garnered support from folks who are usually on the opposite side of the aisle, from the Liberal Party of Canada. It's garnered support from the likes of Mark Cameron, Stephen Harper's former Director of Policy.
The problem there is that if Mark Cameron is smart and competent and with strong enough grasp of the issues to be Jason Kenney's chief policy wonk, then clearly Cameron can't be wrong on the issue of climate change and taxes changing the weather, at least according to the Liberals. Now, do you see the problem with hiring Cameron yet? If you don't, then I've got yet another clip from the very same day in the House of Commons when that very same parliamentary secretary to the Environment Minister, Sean Fraser, invoked Mark Cameron one more time to attack Conservatives on the issue of the carbon tax. Just watch.
For you, Mr. Speaker, is that Quebecers know that climate change is real and they believe that we have an obligation and an opportunity to do something about it. We know what the solutions are to face the greatest challenges of our time. We know that the most effective thing that we can do to transition to a low-carbon economy is to put a price on pollution and return revenues to Canadian families. If you don't believe me, you can look at Mark Cameron, Stephen Harper's former Director of Policy.
Mark Cameron, when he was with Canadians for Clean Prosperity, which he was until just a few short weeks ago, penned articles in support of Justin Trudeau's carbon tax. He said he likes that tax. Cameron said it's good policy. And now Justin Trudeau's Liberals are using Mark Cameron's support of their carbon tax to attack Conservatives as just a bunch of hypocrites on the issue. Mark Cameron should have remained a complete and total outsider on the fringes of mainstream conservatism with regard to his support of carbon taxes. And I'd like to see him sent right back there. To see my full coverage so far of Jason Kenney's hiring of Mark Cameron, go to firecameron.com, and while you're there, you can sign my petition calling on Jason Kenney to replace Mark Cameron with someone who cannot be used against us, and someone who is a better fit with the anti-carbon tax values of Albertans that sent Jason Kenney to the office of the Premier in the first place. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. To see my full coverage of the scandal of new Alberta Premier Jason Kenney hiring a carbon tax lobbyist named Mark Cameron to be his chief policy wonk, go to firecameron.com, and while you're there, please sign my petition calling on Jason Kenney to replace Mark Cameron with somebody better suited for the job. Again, that's at firecameron.com.